So I want to somehow continue this topic of warm up, and
Yep.
after our last discussion, I started to think actually what I need warm up for in impro, because it's for sure it's totally different than impro, than warm up before the other performances. And actually, I realized few things like which I needed for. One is to, of course, is to be active in the moment of performance, and by active I mean to just be present and
Mm,
somehow to be ready, to be fast in the moment, to catch and to see everything, to
mm,
be clear. But also, there are two other things which I really find important in warm up before improv. One is to not be overwhelmed, um,
mm,
like to not, because I see that there are like so many things that if I think about it all before the go to the
mm,
stage, that I'll be like really like
mm.
overwhelmed. And that's why the warm up is important to me, like to have it, keep it, like to be focused on something really small and detail, but
Yes.
but to keep it
Mm,
simple, but somehow to be ready.
mm,
And the other thing is what you actually once said also about the layers, that you put the in each exercise you put somehow the layers. So
mm,
somehow I found this warm up as something what just already gives me the base, like
mm,
when I go to the stage I already put the layer on something, so it's not, I'm not like starting from zero, but there is
mm,
something already like a boiled.
mm, mm,
So I think those two things were important to me when I started to think about the warm up, especially before
mm,
the
mm,
improvisation.
mm. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
I mean, as we said last time, it's a complicated question
mm,
because normally warm up is preparing for something,
mm,
and here we don't know what we are
yeah,
preparing for. So therefore, it has a different kind of idea. But yeah, I think for me, like I don't, yeah, I try not to be dogmatic about what a warm up is. But one thing is, where I agree with you, I want to enter the stage a little bit excited but quite calm.
mm,
So whatever I do before should is about creating that. So this idea you have here of going, well, I don't want to be overwhelmed by
mm,
thinking about what I could do or what I should do or what I must do, and all of those conjugations. So I think it's really important that there's something calm in the atmosphere. It's not necessary. Like I think excitement. Like for years, I worked at this calm thing, and then I thought, I'm not letting myself feel excited.
mm,
Somehow something about this calm thing meant everything had to be somehow subdued in some way. So no, I then started to go, no, it's okay to be excited, and
mm,
it's not so much like like it's all just personal experience, but I know my brain is very quick, so my brain works very fast, but it's also very calm when it's fast. It's not this overwhelmed kind of
mm,
fastness. I have this, I have this, I have this. It's not like this at all. It's just things happen quickly in the brain because it's electricity and it only knows how to be quick. You can't slow electricity down. Uh, but there is a kind of calmness in it for me. And the calmness for me is, maybe it's not the right technical word for it, but what I think the calmness brings is it means I can notice a
mm,
lot more.
mm,
So I can be excited and calm about that. So it means I'm noticing more things. And I think this is because the noticing is so central to what we are doing, that if there is this thing, I'm not overwhelmed kind of spirit, which is more the way you were talking about it, then you notice more, and you can work more with what you notice, which is what we are trying to do. So yeah, I think you're talking about something really interesting there. It's great. It's very
Mm.
good. Yeah. Did you want to talk a bit about the imagination and preparation?
Yeah, yeah, about the imagination. There's also think I started to think about the imagination, and that also you say about it very often, that this is something what actually does not exist, that we don't talk
Yep.
about something what exists, but actually it's based on something really uh, here and now. This is usually
Mm,
something about the senses. This is
mm,
like it comes from the senses, but it's like it's going somewhere wider
mm,
and going somewhere else.
mm.
Mm, and in this imagination, I was thinking about, and I want to try two things today, actually, to exercise. I want to propose, which somehow gives me, because when I think about the imagination, the next thing, of course, is a language, as a translator of something like the pictures which appears. So somehow, language gives me this opportunity to make it more visible, to make it more
Yes.
real, to make it more sensible.
Mm.
Because in other ways, imagination is just a, like, not the theory, but something like a, I can only through the language I can. It's like, and and
Yeah,
yeah.
correct.
But you want to
Just like
say,
that.
will you, can you want to say something? Yeah, I can
Oh
feel
no,
it.
no. I
No?
was just listen. It's great the way you talk about that. But yes, it's this thing. That one of the big advantages of using the imagination as a source for language is the task of turning imagination to language is essentially a descriptive task.
Mm,
And a lot of people who struggle with language and performing, what they say is, I can't think of anything to say.
mm,
It's like they imagine that somehow you have to have some kind of important idea,
mm,
and you have to be able to talk about that idea. And this people find normal people, good people, humble people go, well, what have I got to say then? And they're correct. If that's what talking's about, I'm clever and I've got a great idea which I want to tell you about, then most of us haven't got much to say, you know.
mm,
And all the clever things have been thought of, I think. I don't think there are any new exciting ideas, because clever people have sat down and thought about them and talked about them and written about them in different ways for literally hundreds of years. So it's not like we're going to think of something really important or clever while we're improvising. And I think this is the wrong way to think about it. But something happens in my imagination, and my imagination is unique. Like, I'm the only one with my imagination. And the thing about it, when it's in my head, nobody else really knows. So
mm,
therefore, language, as you said, it's not the only way, and it's not compulsory to use it, but it's a great way to give people a sense of what's going on in your head.
mm,
And to do it, the skill you need is a descriptive one. So you go, I see this. I doesn't have to be clever, it doesn't have to be profound, but it's what's in your imagination. And I can't, as I think I always try to say, the reason I'm interested in you as an artist is because you have a unique imagination. That means what's going on in your brain is totally different to the way you interpret the world, is totally different to the way everyone else does it. So when you give me access to that, it's
mm,
always fascinating,
mm,
and I think that's really interesting to make that whole world of imagination more potent. And of course, you can have your imagination, you can engage with all of this stuff inside your head, and it will give you a really deep and rich imaginative life, you know. And but our job as artists is not the only one, but an important one is communication. So it's like, how do we give that form? That's the artist's job, I think, giving form to the things we notice and the things we feel and the things we have. So, how do we give it form? So, this descriptive language is a great way to give it form, as again, it's not the only way, but it's a great way to play with in this field of communication. So, how does someone else understand my imagination? As an individual, I don't need to communicate it. I can keep it all in my head. And we all know people like that who they have this amazing world inside their head going on, and they don't tell the rest of us, you know. And so therefore, we just go, I wonder what's going on, you know.
mm,
Whereas when people communicate from that basis in an artistic communicative framework, which is what our form is, then it's really useful. And we have to go back to the idea, and it's just an idea that I've thought of, it's not profound, and I'm not the only one to ever think it, but the idea that every imagination is unique.
mm,
It is one of the most unique things about us. So therefore, I personally find it endlessly interesting to see, oh my God, look at the way their imagination works. It's actually different to my imagination, or it's similar to my imagination. But everyone is quite unique in that.
mm,
And maybe it's a modern idea, but the kind of unique aspect of it, for me, is kind of central to the idea of being an artist. You know, that we've, you know, maybe it's a modern 20th century idea, but that the art that the artist has somehow a unique perspective, and it's, you know, we used to think you had to be a genius, but I think everybody has this actually.
mm,
Mm. So I agree with you.
mm.
What did you want to try? What exercises did you want to try?
I want to try one you are familiar with, and I got it for Peter Trotman. It's daydreaming.
Yes.
And the other one is I call it body part manifesto, and I want to try those two things. We've got 10 more minutes, so
Yep.
yeah. So and I think I want to start from the daydreaming. I'm keeping my time now, and I want to do it for 1.5 minutes, but in this order that for 1 minute you are focused on the sense, on the sensation. I will tell you which one. And then when I say go, for the 30 seconds, you have time to say what you saw. Mm, yeah, what you saw. Yeah. And so during the 1 minute, you can have your eyes closed. And during the warm up, very often I switch I choose which sense today I want to focus on,
Mm.
like the
Mm.
taste or the hearing
Mm.
or tactile or touch. So today I want to focus on hearing. So 1 minute you just hear, and when I
Mm-hmm.
say go for the 30 seconds, you tell me what you saw, and
Mm.
that's it.
Okay.
Okay,
Cool. Yeah. Super cool.
super cool. Okay, ready? Close your eyes and go. and go.
My mother. I can hear her breathing. I'm very close and very small, and I can hear her breathing. A long way away, I heard a bird, two birds, one that way, squawking. And then I come back to hearing my mother's breathing. And I'm very
And,
and very small.
and time. Thank you. How is that?
It's great, of course, it's great. Like it's uh, like the sensations, like the hearing sensations. I mean, my like it's hard for me to hear them abstractly. So
Hmm.
my brain automatically identifies them, says it's this thing.
Hmm.
Now you hear the bird. It doesn't hear. It
Hmm.
hears the bird. So my brain's immediately actually using language to kind of understand the things I hear, and it would be great to get underneath that to work to really just hear it as sound. But in a minute I wasn't going to have this revolution, so that was. But I love that. And then the thing I could mainly hear, because I've got the earphones in, I could hear my own breathing through my nose, which is, I have a little bit of allergy today. So, and
Hmm.
I feel like I'm also being sympathetic to your nose.
Okay.
And so I could hear the air going through my nose. And then that really strong feeling of some point in my childhood, quite regularly hearing my mother's breathing
Hmm.
somehow. And I couldn't get a kind of really concrete image of something specific, but it just felt really familiar. Um, and there was just this slight feeling that she was wearing turquoise, a kind of blue-green color.
Hmm.
Uh, Not like your top, nothing like that. I
Of
wasn't
course.
thinking about you as my mother, just in case anyone thinks that. But there was that, and it's like I was close, and somehow we weren't doing much, but I could hear her breathing. So I loved that. And then, just began to enjoy the language of, in that 30 seconds, enjoy the sense that the language could be poetic rather than pragmatic
Hmm.
in the description. So therefore, and for me, that poetic idea, it means it unhooks me from caring about the chronology or when or anything specific. It's more like an echo or a dream in that sense, kind of slightly a disassociated image that it doesn't need to be a story yet. So I felt very engaged with my imagination, actually. In this particular case, that particular form of imagination I would call memory.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah.
And they've done a lot of research recently about the question of memory and this idea. It used to be we thought our memories were all stored, so it was like a hard drive with memories stored on them. But they're now changing their view of that and saying we actually recreate the memory when we recall it. It's actually being recreated, made. It's not like it's sitting there and you open the box and you have the memory. It's more like you start to recreate memory, and that's why it's so unreliable, and that's also why it's so interesting as an artist to be using
Hmm.
memory, I think, because it's actually a reconstruction of something rather than accessing a recording.
Hmm.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Mm.
So now I want to try the other thing. So it's like also we will do in 1.5 minutes, and it's gonna be different than how 30 seconds is the sensing and focusing on the body part, and then 1 minute of talking from the perspective of this body part, like the
Yep.
you yeah. So it's kind of play. So it's like you can be free in it,
Hmm.
and I will give you the body part, And yeah, and I will tell you
Yep.
go. When I tell you go, it means that 30 seconds when you focus on this body part, then you can talk for the 1 minute. And that's it.
Hmm.
And that's it. That's it. What I want to try today.
Okay, great. What do you call it? I love the name. What did you call the name?
Body part manifesto.
Very good.
Okay, so I'm give you your ears.
Ah, yeah. Okay.
Ready? Okay. So 30 seconds of focusing on it and then 1 minute of talking through the perspective of the ears. Let me pin you and go. And go.
Burning, burning, burning. They must be talking about me. Somewhere they must be my ears. They are allergy led burning rings of fire. They go down, 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 and the flames get higher. Red, red rings, rings of heat around the edge of burning ears because they speak of you. Your ears are burning. She told me, yes, she told me that. I know you know who know I'm thinking about my mother. She told me that, yes, your ears are burning because others are speaking of you. And then the next question I had when I was very young, after she told me my ears were burning because others were talking about me, I said, what are they saying? Is it good or bad? I just needed that. Is it good or bad? And she said, probably
Wow.
bad. Probably bad. You've probably been a bad boy. Thank you. That was great.
Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, the difference was so great.
Mm,
Hearing and the ears themselves, like it, halfway through the time of playing with focusing on the body part, um, I was going, oh, I could just listen, but my ears feels totally different as an
mm,
idea to hearing.
huh.
And it is that thing. It's like because I've got this hay fever, then my nose feels hot and my ears feel hot. It's a bit warm in the room here today, and so it was just this heat, this sense of heat everywhere. Um, was kind of what I felt,
Mm,
mainly around the edge, exactly as I described, and
mm,
on both of them. And so I just played with that. And then my ears are burning. This is great. It's a connection to Midnight Oil's song Beds Are Burning. But also, I remember this, I can remember that conversation with my mother
mm.
when I was young. And she said, your ears must be burning. And I said, what do you mean? She says, that's what you say when people are talking about you.
Yeah.
And it's a colloquialism in English. So it took me back to another memory with my mother, different
Mm,
one, but yeah. So it was very rich again, very, very
mm,
rich. And it's interesting, it was the other way around. Like a third of it was the noticing, and then it was very easy to make a minute's material from 30 seconds of noticing. That's one
mm,
thing I love about noticing is it's so productive. You
mm,
don't have to do it for very long to have a lot of imaginary connections in the imagination. So I
mm,
love that about it. It's really so rich.
mm.